Jack. I hate to admit
Are you?
it, but I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a very
Well, you
low.
know something, you know.
I have a
No.
low threshold for boredom. Oh, okay.
But you're not going also, like the average person who's
Yeah.
going in to be amused. It's a whole
Right.
different
Yeah.
point of view, and rightly so.
Well, Jack, welcome
Yeah.
back to
Thank you, Bobbie.
Texas. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Good to be here again.
Yeah. I want to ask you straight away, Jack Lemmon, I want to find out from you if your tuxedo is pressed and ready to go.
Is my tuxedo? Where are we going? Where? What? I'll go. Wherever it is.
I'm sure of it, Jack. You're going to the Oscar Awards this time as
Oh.
a nominee.
Well, I hope so. Hope I get a chance to lose again. It would be nice. I hope so.
Oh, you've got a pretty good track record.
That's true. I've been very lucky.
Are you at all superstitious talking about awards?
No. No, I don't have any superstitions. Most people have some. I don't think I have any, really, now that I think about it.
Are you going to sit there, Jack Lemmon, and tell me that you are so secure you don't have any superstitions?
Well, not really, no. Except I always say magic time before when the camera's going to go. I don't know why. I've been doing that ever since the old days of live TV. I guess because basically all of a sudden they say action and you're supposed to be somewhere else, somebody else, in some fantasy land somewhere. And it really is magic time when it works. But I had a director once in the old days, they'd count down from the booth when it was live. You'd say 10, 9, 8, so when you get down, 2, 1, magic time. And it always goosed everybody up. So I've been saying it ever since.
When you were doing this on Broadway, and you had been away for some 18 years, hadn't you, off
Yeah, it
the
was
stage?
less on Broadway. Yeah,
Yes.
I'd done stage, but not on Broadway.
But
yeah.
not on Broadway for 18 years. And that night, when you had to step out on the stage, and you knew all the critics and everybody were out there, what did you do that night?
You think a lot, a little fainting. No matter what you're thinking, I don't remember exactly what my frame of mind was, just exactly before going out. But you block it. You cut it out, and you prepare just as you do every night when you're going. And once you start, that's it. It's like any other time. You go underneath, and it's you're probably a little more goosed up and psyched up than normal, because it's Broadway opening, But on top of it all, and as far as reality goes, you're just into it, The dramatic reality is reality, and you forget about it. You've got to, or God help you, because you won't be in the scene.
The movie is quite true to the play, isn't it?
Yes, I would say 90% of the movie is the play, merely moved out of the set, and some scenes played in other places, or broken and continued, in other places. But he kept, which I think was correct, he kept the play itself, over 90% of it.
When you were getting the role together, Jack, was it difficult to get a handle on this guy? He is so complex.
Yeah, and that's the attraction. I had no idea how to play him. That's one of the first things that attracted me to it. I was afraid also, which attracted me to it. I found that a number of roles that have turned out, thank heaven, to be, very worthwhile for me. I have really had a little bit of fear. Maybe I can't get this fella. I don't know if I can play him, And you'll do better work that way with a little fear, I think. In other words, a normal insecurity. If you start thinking you can play anything and everything, you're just going to sort of kick it off your heel, and it's not going to really have the guts of a performance, I think, that you can give when you have a part that's good.
Did
He
you
is
have-
complex, you're right.
Did you have that feeling about Days of Wine and Roses?
Oh, yes. That was one of the first ones that really scared me. Yeah, I did. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to take a stab at it. And it didn't help when every studio turned it down. And I mean every studio turned it down when I said I wanted to do it. And they said, "What, is he crazy? What is this laugh, clown, laugh? What is it? Everybody wants to be Pagliacci. Why don't you go home, get a nice little comedy, and we'll do it. But don't start trying to play this stuff." They all threw that at me. Until finally Jack Warner said, "Okay, thank heaven." But, yeah, that was the first time I realized the attractiveness of being a little afraid. It's interesting. And I don't think it's just acting. I think it can apply to any of us in anything. That the fear of failure keeps you from doing too much. You'll never find out, and the failure itself won't hurt you. It'll probably help you.
You're quoting lines Scotty's lines.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's true.
Yeah, it is true.
I recently talked with Jane Fonda, and when it was over, Jack, she said something that just rocked me back on my heels. I had asked her only one political question, and she said, "Why is it I get all the heavy questions?" She said, "Nobody thinks I have a sense of humor."
She does. She does. She's dynamite, I think. I love her. I really do. I think that's because of the personal image she had, you know, for being, which I think is tremendously commendable, but for being so forthright, and, you know, especially long before it was popular for women, let alone anybody, to really stand up and not worry about what people think, but to say what they think themselves, and not be influenced by anything except that, and not worry about what are people going to think, or what is it going to do to my career, what is it going to do to me socially, or anything else. That kind of an honesty is rare, and as I said, I think marvelous. But it's true, people think of it as being so heavy herself that they don't think of her as having a sense of humor, you know, which she does.
But she could play any sort of, well, not any sort, but I mean, she could play a really funny comedic role.
Sure.
And she'd be funny. Huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she is. I think Jane is as good as any actress in her generation, potentially. No question. You know, and I agree. I don't think that she's been tapped as far as what she could do, or roles where suddenly we'd say, oh, my God, is that Jane Fonda in his broad comedy? Sure, I agree with you. She'd be terrific. It'll happen. It'll happen.
Jack, I want to talk a little bit about two words that I think every actor has to live with. One is rejection,
Yeah.
and one is insecurity. I'm talking perhaps financial insecurity.
Yeah.
Almost every actor faces that at some time
Oh, sure.
or other.
Yeah.
What was the worst case of rejection you ever had, or you can remember?
There's no, without taking too much time, there is no, obviously there hasn't been one single thing, you know, or it would come boom right into my
You
mind
never went
now.
up for a part and thought you had it, and then they said
Oh,
sorry?
yeah. What I was going to say is there's many, many of them, not just one big one, you know, that I can remember offhand. But there has been rejection. An actor has to live with rejection. The rejection, obviously, because I got lucky and it all worked out, was much more constant and more difficult to deal with when I was younger and when I was starting out and really scratching like every kid has to. That was rough. Every time. It is so difficult. I remember walking into a casting office and as I came in the door, this was going way back in the late 40s, mid to late 40s, at CBS, when television was just sort of burgeoning, just beginning, you know. And there was a young actress that I had met that I said hi to. We both were coming in the door at the same time. And we were chatting for a minute, waiting for the secretary to get off the phone. And then we were going to ask if we could go in to see Bobbie Fryer, who was then the casting agent at CBS, then became a very successful producer. And we were both, everything was fine. She was all bubbly and so forth. And we turned, and she said hello. And we said, could we see Mr. Fryer when he's free about the future casting? And she said, I'm terribly sorry, he's not seeing anybody today. There is no casting going on right now. And the girl burst into tears and had sobbing hysterics. She had been through so much, and now she couldn't even just get in the door to see him, and she just suddenly went and cracked. I mean, it was shocking. It threw me. But even something as simple as that became rejection. But it's something you've got to live with and learn to live with. The other, the financial insecurity and everything, is nothing compared to that, compared to the emotional rejection. And it's something you never get over. And I think if you do totally ever get over it, you will cease to have any value as an actor at all. There'll be no empathy. There'll be no way you can have the sensitivity and to understand characters enough to make the audience understand what you found out, which is all acting is really about, you know. I think it's necessary.
Do you think rejection and having to live with that, always, it doesn't matter, you can be an Academy Award winner today
Sure.
and you can't get arrested tomorrow.
Sure,
you know.
absolutely. Yeah.
So do you think that that's what makes actors different from other people, the ones who do find a way to live with it?
Yeah, it's part of it. I think you're right, Bobbie. It is part of it. I think ultimately, I think that whatever talent is, that you may be born with or blessed with, and with all the hard work and everything else, obviously there has to be some kind of a talent there for it. But there has to also be a sensitivity. There has to be a perceptive quality in which a really good actor, I think, is able to see things a little more clearly about human behavior than the average person, or else he's not going to be able to get into a character. He's not going to understand enough if he doesn't have that much sensitivity. He's not going to be able to play it. He won't even understand it, let alone be able to play it, that a person's behavior, you see. Now, if he's going to have that kind of sensitivity, he also has to have an intelligence. This is only my theory. I think that sensitivity and intelligence somehow go hand in hand. They're intertwined to an extent. I've never met a really good actor that was dumb. He might be an emotional baby. He might act like a 2-year-old, but not dumb. Because you can't be dumb and be able to perceive that well. If you're going to be able to perceive that well, then you're going to be able to be hurt easier too. The other side of the coin is that you're also going to have more fun, you're going to see more beautiful things in life, and you're going to appreciate beautiful things in life more than the average person too. So there's two sides of the coin.
Jack, of all your actor friends, with whom do you have the most fun? I mean, the minute you see them, you just start laughing.
Martha, my favorite leading lady. No, Walter is a very, very dear friend of mine, and I adore him personally and professionally. I think he's the best actor I ever worked with, and like Jane, untapped in a way.
Do you have any running gags, the two of you?
No, not running gags. We're with each other constantly, and we're really very, very close. Our wives are very close. As a matter of fact, I think they're going to do a TV series together, an interview TV series, once a month, an hour thing. Oh, my God, help us all. I don't know how, whoever they interview isn't going to get a word in, because the two of them start going, oh, boy, they are funny. But they're both terribly bright, and it'll be fun. But, yeah, there's no question. Walter, I don't know why, it's like Jack Benny and George Burns. George would say, "Good morning, Jack," and Benny would fall over, in hysterics. Walter, I can't look at him half the time in scenes. Oh, it's terrible. We have to do about 20 takes, because every time I look at him, I crack up. He pulls me right out of it with that face, everything he does just strikes me funny. That whole walk. He has no left side. Did you know that? It's frozen. Walter walks like this. Everything he's on the right here. There's his right arm, it's moving here. This thing could be broken. It was broken, and in a cast for 3 weeks of The Odd Couple, and they had one of those casts that split, and they'd take it off in the scene and take the sling off and everything. And he played for 3 weeks, and nobody knew it was broken, because he never moves it anyway. Everything is with the right hand. He just holds things here, and then he takes them out. He says, "I get sandwiches, green sandwiches, brown sandwiches, veggie sandwiches," and he keeps on going. It just never moves. The whole left side is paralyzed. I don't know. He just kills me. He's something else.
Jack, I always regret that we have to stop after,
Why?
Well, I don't know. It's some law, rule, or whatever they have around here. But anyway, I'm going to look for you come Oscar night.
Oh, thank you.
And I'll be cheering like crazy for you.
Thank you, dear.
And we'll look forward to seeing you again real soon.
It's good to see you again.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
you, Jack.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Is it or not? Oh, okay. All right. So we'll have reactions. Okay, we're ready for the questions then. Okay. And you can keep pretty much the same shot the whole time if you like. All right.
think you want to do the radio?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
good to see you.
Good to see you, Jack. Take care.
Love you.
All right. Okay, you're still rolling, okay? Jack, I want to know, is your tuxedo ready? Your tuxedo for the Oscar Awards. I know you're going to be nominated. Okay. This role you play is so complex. Was he a hard guy to get a handle on? Was it hard to get a handle on this character, Jack? All right, keep going. Jack, I recently did an interview with Jane Fonda when she was here for 9 to 5, and I only asked her one heavy question, really. But when it was over, she said, "Why is it I always get the heavy questions, the political questions? Nobody thinks I have a sense of humor." You think then that she could take almost any sort of comedy role and do it? Two things, Jack, that every actor has to live with at some time in his career: rejection and financial insecurity. When you think about rejection, what comes to mind? You mean you never went up for a part and thought you had it and then found out somebody else got it? Okay, keep going. Jack, of all your actor friends, with whom do you have the most fun? Keep going. Was the character you played in Days of Wine and Roses, was it that kind of thing in that? Let me start again. Was there that kind of thing in Days of Wine and Roses? Okay. Does anybody else think? Oh, I know. I've got one. Okay. Jack, do you mean to sit there and tell me you are not superstitious? When you had opening night of Tribute on Broadway after you had been off Broadway for 18 years, what was it like that night? What were you like opening night backstage waiting to go on for Tribute? Okay. All right, keep going. The play Tribute is very, no, I've got it. The movie Tribute is very close to the Broadway play, isn't it? Okay. Can any of you think of any other question?
You talked about the critics, but that was in reference to his feelings before his
This reaction.
Critics.
You talked about the critics being there to see opening night.
Oh, yeah, okay. Opening night of Tribute on Broadway, Jack, after you had not been on Broadway for 18 months, knowing all the critics were out there, what kind of state were you in?
18 years. You said months.
Oh, did I? Oh, thank you. You're sharp. Thank you so much. Okay. Jack, opening night of Tribute on Broadway, you had been away from Broadway 18 years. All the critics are out there. What kind of state were you in? Okay. Does anybody else think of anything else? Oh, there was one line. You're quoting Scotty's lines right out of Tribute. Okay. I'll just do a wrap-up then, okay? Well, Jack, I will look forward to Oscar night, seeing you in the audience, and better yet, seeing you go up on stage and get your Oscar for tribute. Thank you, Jack. Okay, that should do it, gang. Thank you all for your help.